Search is no longer just about Google. It's a behavior happening everywhere, from TikTok and Amazon to ChatGPT and Perplexity. To win in this new era, brands need to understand their audience deeply and align their SEO, social strategy, and authenticity across every platform where discovery happens. That's a quote from Melissa Hardin and a sneak peek at today's episode. Hi there, I'm Carrie Curran, Fractional Chief Growth Officer, Industry Analyst, and host of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, where we discuss smart strategies that can drive your revenue growth. In this episode, titled Mastering Search Intelligence, Ranking Strategies Across Social, AI, Voice, and Video, I'm joined by Melissa Hardin. She's the VP of Search Intelligence at Digitas. Melissa and I discuss how search behavior has shifted way beyond Google. Today requires brands to master ranking strategies from TikTok to Amazon, from ChatGPT to Perplexity, voice search, and video content. This episode offers a forward-looking guide for marketers to thrive in the ever-evolving digital landscape while driving revenue growth. Let's go. So welcome, Melissa. Please introduce yourself and share your background and expertise.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carrie. So my name is Melissa Hardin. I am a VP of Search Intelligence at Digitas here in the US. And I've had a long background in SEO, digital marketing. I swear I'm young, but it's like almost hitting 18 years now. And so have a wide variety from working at Meredith, so in a publications space with commerce publishing, right when it was like getting off the ground, all the way to working from a startup perspective in the tech industry, and then doing a lot from commerce and retail. So I've really had a wide chance of experiencing search in all of its many facets from lots of different angles in which it kind of happens at scale or very unique from a B2B perspective. So I've been keeping up with where Google has been going for a long time, and algo after algo, dissecting and figuring out what's been going on there. So leading us to where we're at today.
Excellent. Well, I'm really excited to have you on. And, just to start with your role, I think it's so indicative and impressive of the importance of search that you have a search innovation title and role. Do you want to just share a bit more about kind of what that means?
Yeah, really great question. Because search intelligence isn't normally something you would see when you're looking for an SEO. And it's really more of looking at where we're at in the current state of search and how so many things are converging all at once. A lot of the times when people hear SEO, they directly think of Google. And one of the pieces I'm trying to a bit more evangelize is that search is a behavior and it's happening everywhere on every platform. And from that, here at Digitas, we decided to look at how we need to approach what's emerging from a search perspective here and really bring in not just what's happening with Google and Google's market share, but what's happening from a TikTok search perspective, what's happening with emerging search engines like a Perplexity or a ChatGPT, and even how users are searching within Amazon or Walmart. And what does all of that search behavior really tell us? And how do we start to figure out how to help our clients win in lots of those spaces when they're trying to rank higher within any of those search engines? And it takes a lot more than just tech SEO, content SEO, or traditional backgrounds. You really have to start to think about your audience, your branding, your social strategy, your CRM, how you're connecting from a loyalty perspective. All of that really counts in these days.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, I started my digital marketing career as an SEO manager where the most important things were title tags and descriptions, like way, way back in the aughts. So it is fascinating, and you're spot on that everything's a search engine these days. So you talked about the consumer trends, just how people are searching everywhere. Everything is converging. So dive a bit more deeply into what you're seeing about the behavioral trends and how that's pushed platforms to innovate.
Yeah. So I would say about maybe more around 3 years ago or so at this point is really where we started to see that search behavior wasn't just something that was happening within Google. TikTok honestly was the first one that really started to like bite at the heels of Google and
Mm-hmm.
what users were looking to search. And the reason for that is when you look at the behavior, all of these different platforms, whether it was a Pinterest or TikTok or YouTube, users, while they were interacting with it, were curious people. We started to want to also search within those platforms because we were really enjoying the types of content formats that
Mm-hmm.
were different within those engines. So instead of it being, a web page
Yeah.
or text that was displayed as a result within Google, you now have these short form, snappy videos that you could get a lot of information from within a TikTok or within Pinterest. You could fill a vision board of a aesthetic that you're looking to fulfill
Mm-hmm.
if you're, trying to do like interior decorating, or YouTube, obviously the longer form content of
Yeah.
video. And so because of that, users started to ask more. So like a lot of that discovery search behavior that used to happen a bit more on Google because we just kind of assumed Google knows the entire World Wide Web. So that's where we're going to be able to find things from all within the world. These other
Mm-hmm.
platforms were showing us that they had lots of multitude of content at their disposal. And so from there, we started to force, I'm going to use TikTok as the example. For TikTok, we started to force TikTok to become a search engine, even though TikTok, the platform itself, never really expected to become that. They just thought they
Mm-hmm.
were going to be, a new social platform that was going to have quick, snappy videos. And so from that, I know even some of their product teams had to figure out how do we now service what we are being forced and kind of asked to become in as a platform. Um, so I'd say that's kind of where it started. And as users got used to that, they started to ask a lot more of their other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is Amazon. Like Amazon
Yeah.
is now like the number one product discovery platform when it comes to searching because we already have it's such a, like from a frictionless marketing perspective, it's really
Yeah.
easy to get the things that we want there. And so we
Mm-hmm.
search more than anything else. Nobody's going into Amazon and navigating around. Like that's not
Yeah.
really what's happening. We're all going in and
Yeah. Yeah.
we're typing into that search bar to
Yeah.
figure out what it is that we want. And so that behavior has even shown from an audience makeup perspective what we're searching for within each platform changes, and
Yeah.
obviously how brands need to and clients need to respond to that to be able to get in front of those users is a really interesting, although complicated and it requires so much more work to get in
Yeah.
front of your audiences and the right message this time.
Yeah, and it's for, especially for brands and marketers, there's so many more things to think about, platforms to think about, and to include into your strategy. And just thinking about, it's like to your point of how the social platforms and commerce platforms have had to evolve their capabilities and search functionality to respond. There's, emerging engines that we're seeing as the AI platforms are realizing that they need to be in this, providing this service, this capability, and what people are looking for. So, talk about what you're seeing from the emerging engines, that how the AI tools are playing in the mix.
Yeah. So same thing that happened to TikTok, the emerging the emerging AI platforms. So like ChatGPT was actually pushed into a new realm just as TikTok was. So originally OpenAI had released their product and they saw it as something that was going to allow people to interact with an AI to help them, speed up processes, the do more with less type of approach that everybody's
Yeah.
asking for. But what ended up happening is that users were then coming in and they're like, oh, this is really great. Now I want to know all these other things. And so they started, again, searching within ChatGPT, which is not originally what it was made for. I mean, when it first came out, it wasn't even recent data. Like the database stopped at 2021. And so even though you were asking very current, relevant questions, it didn't know how to answer or give any
Mhm.
generative results back to that. Fast forward to where we're at today, they've obviously made a lot more improvements. So they even came out with what they were going to come out with the search GPT versus chat GPT. And then they realized, wait, people aren't going to hop into two different platforms and do two different things. So instead, they have now kind of merged those together so that when you would put in what should be a prompt, if it feels like a question,
Mhm.
or or a traditional search query, it will actually go through now. ChatGPT will give you search results from the web.
Mhm.
Now, granted, they have their partnership with Microsoft. And so Bing is the basis of how a lot of those results come in. It's not the only thing that is creating rankings within
Yeah.
ChatGPT, but that is the basis of the crawler that goes out throughout the entire World Wide Web to bring back those results. So it does make Bing relevant again, but not in a way that Bing
Yeah.
expected to become relevant again. And it's more from all of us, nerd hats on, where we have like that technical SEO perspective. We're trying to figure out how we actually get clients to be able to rank and show up within those search engines.
Yeah.
Perplexity, on the other hand, though, uses something that's a little bit, it's not, they don't have a partnership with Google, but there is a correlation that the top 10 results within Google do tend to show up as, again, the results, the rankings, within Perplexity's tools when you put in a query that feels like a search, instead of a traditional prompt. And so it is interesting to see how these two are kind of battling it out together. I will say Perplexity is a much more interesting platform to me right now because it is a mix between what traditional Google search feels like for us as
Mhm.
searchers, and then what we expect AI to do. It's not like we have to hop all of a sudden to this new behavior. It's a really great in the middle, where it still gives a lot of like citations. So there's a lot of links. If you actually like a result, you can click on it
Mhm.
and go visit websites. So from a marketing perspective, that's really great for brands compared to what some of the AI platforms do, where it just gives the answers that feels like they're kind of
Yeah.
taking it from your website and then just getting to display it, and you don't really get any of that attribution back. So
Mhm.
Perplexity is the one that I truly enjoy, just because I feel like it's the most fair when you think about the AI engines right now.
This episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, is brought to you by Kriglu. Want to boost customer acquisition while saving time and money? Meet Kriglu, an AI-powered omnichannel bid management platform designed to optimize your ad spend. Kriglu intelligently adjusts bids across channels, ensuring your ads reach the right audience at the lowest cost. Plus, with its automation, you'll free up valuable time to focus on your business. The result? Efficient, cost-effective growth, all while maximizing your marketing budget. Ready to scale smarter and faster? Visit Kriglu.com, Kriglo.com, and start saving today. Excellent. And you were saying that Perplexity is growing at a rapid rate. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I did not do the data myself, but I had seen that Perplexity is growing around 70% month over month, which is like,
A lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot,
Yeah.
which is really great to see from that perspective. In comparison, ChatGPT is growing around 40-ish, 45%
Mhm.
each month.
Which is still a lot, but
Still a lot.
it's just showing the user behavior really is shifting.
Yes. And if you take that current state of ChatGPT and map it over time, again, if nothing else really swings, around 4 years is what they're projecting to say that ChatGPT would be right up
Mhm.
there with Google at that point. So it gives you a sense of depth,
Yeah.
of what could be happening. And that's in 4 years. 4 years can sound
Yeah.
like a lot of time. And then the older I get, I'm like, wait, that's just like a hiccup.
Yeah.
And so it is something that teams should be preparing for. And I will say the difference between Perplexity and ChatGPT is when OpenAI came out, there were just a lot of user interest. It was the first AI platform that
Mhm.
was really open to public. And so that
Yeah.
growth, even though smaller than Perplexity, has a much larger user base to
Mhm.
start from. So it's just both of them are something to keep an eye on, and also start to think about as brands, how do you get represented within those results that AI is feeding back to users?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point and question. So, how are you with your clients on other Digitas clients? Like, what are you telling them? Like, how are they? How do they need to? What do they need to think about? How do they need to prepare?
Yeah. So it's a really fun question for me because I don't love being siloed. I love working with all the different teams. It's a hard question from a brand perspective because it means you need all of your teams communicating
Yeah.
together. You have to
Hmm.
unsilo your business completely at this point.
Yeah.
So again, that's why we pulled Search Intelligence
That's a
together.
whole other podcast topic of how to break down the silos. But so
Yes.
I'm laughing because I know that's not easy, but it's critical at this point.
Yes, because when you think about the emerging engines, like with AI, it's not just about you have a web page where it was like, here was the thing that they were searching, and here is, I've keyword stuffed and put all these things together to make sure that this, piece of content is going to show
Yeah.
up. That is not
Yeah.
how AI works.
Hmm.
So you have to think about your social strategy. You have to think about brand marketing. You have to think about your loyalty because engagement metrics are actually
Yeah.
something that Google is using as well as other bots. There are things within our browsers that most people don't know is actually tracking them. I mean, there's still, it's hidden, it's anonymized and whatnot,
Yeah.
but there are still numbers like how long time on page, are you clicking to go to the next thing? Is your shopping journey or your discovery journey being solved when you get to not just a web page, but even a social post, because a social post can talk just as much about your brand or your product just as a web
Hmm.
page can, or a forum, right? An answer within a forum is something that is going to come out. I mean, I'm sure we have all seen that
Yeah.
Reddit and Quora and all sorts of
Hmm.
other forums. It feels like we're living back in the in the 1990s, like late 90s, with all these forums popping up
Yep.
on all these results. But it's all about like a digital PR perspective. You have to be thinking
Hmm.
about that, and honestly, even from a paid marketing, like paid media, because
Yeah.
that builds your brand. All
Hmm.
of those things together have to come into a symbiotic relationship at this point to be able to function not just within the emerging AI search engine space, but even within Google, because those are the same signals that Google is showing us right now to
Hmm.
be able to rank better within their platform, which is kind of throwing the SEO world and the SEO industry into a little bit of a loop because it's been a little bit different. It's been a lot. What I say is a lot is like we've been hyper focused on page SEO, and
Yeah.
now the pendulum is swinging to say no. You got to think a lot more about your off page SEO, and
Hmm.
off page SEO has just grown so much from what we 10 years ago were thinking about when we thought about off page SEO. It's not just
Yeah.
backlinks, it's
Yeah.
mentions, it's brand authority, it's authenticity,
Hmm.
it's video content, it's image
Yeah.
content, all of that combined together. And that hasn't even broken into talking about voice search behavior yet.
Yeah. So tell us, I know there's a lot of evolution with voice search, especially with Google. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So we have, start with first the traditional search behavior when we think about it is all about typing,
Yeah.
right? But with some of as technology has gotten better. So when we think back when Alexa first came out and we're talking with Alexa, we're like, okay, like she can only do so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now we've gotten to the point where we've started using our phones and we're like, texting through voice dictation. And all of that is starting a new habit. And as we have
Hmm.
done those habits over and over, we now have a behavior that we're used to, which is talking to our devices.
Hmm.
The other thing that then came in is with all of the AI platforms, prompting honestly only goes so far when you're typing it in, but when you
Right.
actually give it more context for your prompt,
Hmm.
the better results are. So users have started to click on the voice prompting. So they're talking to the bot more often, which then leads them to different results. And since they've been seeing that those results are better, now people are starting to want to search more with voice. And
Hmm.
Google honestly is trying to push us in that to that behavior because
Yeah.
if you've seen any, I swear, any football game, there's always a Google Gemini ad that comes on where they're literally showing people how to talk to Gemini, like, oh, just like I can ask you anything, and it's like, yes, just tell me what we're doing. And so there's a woman who's like laying down telling Gemini about her dream, and Gemini is like, oh, did you know that seeing snakes means like you have a form of creativity? So it's all about this
Yeah.
kind of getting us all used to this new behavior so that it can
Hmm.
kind of shape how we're interacting with, not just the technologies and the platforms, but how that would end up changing by giving more context to
Hmm.
all the AI so that it can give us better results. The more it knows about us, the better the results are going to be, which is ultimately what any search engine and what Google has always said
Right. Right.
is it's always a search for the best user experience.
Hmm. Yeah, this is first of all, this your insights and POV is really valuable. There's so much that brands need to think about, so much that needs to go into the strategy just to be relevant to the algorithms, regardless of the platforms. So I know you kind of gave us a lot to think about. So if you were to kind of narrow it down to like what's the most important thing or your top recommendation for brands and marketers, agency marketers to kind of think about to stay up to speed with all of these evolutions, what would it be?
The number one thing I would say right now that is my soapbox is to know your audience. It sounds so marketing cliche, but I think that what I've seen over times with brands and clients that I've worked with is they assume that they know who their audience is, but it's like they're taking one sense of pass of that audience against all the platforms, but the audience is different per platform, and what they expect as an audience is also different per platform. So the better you know what your audience is and what they want and
Mm-hmm.
how they want to be spoken to, and I would say hint hint, right now it's all about authenticity. You have to be transparent because everything with what is fake news, what is real, what's AI, what is a true
Mm-hmm.
person, like we are questioning a lot of that right now. And so the more explicit you can be within, a web page, within a social post, within a blog forum, and show who you are and show the people behind your brand, the better you're actually going to do from a rankings perspective in search engines as well as within the emerging platforms as well.
Yeah, I love that. A lot of the brand strategy work we've been doing lately is the authenticity and the humans behind the brands and the audience connection. So it all I love that, and it's so smart, and it's like I said, there's a lot to think about, but I like the recommendation of thinking about your audience first because that should be the basis of all
Yes.
strategies. But Melissa, thank you so much. Any last tips, advice, or recommendations?
I would say just it's keeping up with everything that's shifting right now. And I would say as scary as it can be with what the future is, I think this is our moment where it
Yeah.
is like back in the late 1990s where it was like the yellow pages was still the way in which you were going to get a lot of audience. And they're like, we don't know what really the internet is. And I think we're
Mhm.
at that pivotal moment again where it's like
Yeah.
we've been used to the internet or like, you know what I mean? The World Wide Web. And
Mhm.
now it's like AI is the next piece. And so it's still going to be for the next few years, it's going to be bumpy. So go with the flow, but do make sure that you have all of your different capabilities and teams talking with each other because that's ultimately what's going to drive not just your organic,
Mhm.
the free type of marketing
Yeah.
over in traffic to your site. That's really what's going to help all the different channels work at their
Yeah.
best.
No, it's so smart and so important. So making sure you're communicating with the other teams and strategies. This is wonderful. And Melissa, another way for people to stay on top of trends is your podcast. So tell us, how can people find you and tell everyone more about kind of the content that you're producing?
Yeah. So one, if you want to reach out to me from a very professional perspective, that is at Digitas. So it's just melissa.harden@digitas.com. Would love to talk with you about all sorts of different solutions that we have. But if you want to just like keep up to date, like while you're walking your dogs or driving around, my husband and I actually started what we call the search bar. So over on YouTube at Harden Search Bar. We just talk about whatever is top of mind. He's in the same industry, so we just decided instead of our boys being the ones who learn about this every day at the dinner table, let's just go ahead and put some mics in front of us and start this off. So we've been having a lot of fun. Just anything that comes to mind from a search or just digital marketing perspective, we answer them.
That's great. And so we'll put the links and the show notes, but thank you so much for joining us today. And
Of
I look
course.
forward, I know we get to see each other in person next week. So really looking forward to that as well.
Same. Thank you,
Take care.
Carrie.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I hope you found this episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, as valuable as I did. Lisa's insight on the evolution of searchable platforms is must-have knowledge for all marketers. If you found this helpful, be sure to subscribe to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, for more expert advice on smarter marketing strategies. We can be found in all of the top podcast directories. I invite you to connect with me, Carrie Curran, on LinkedIn or at revenuebasedmarketing.com, where I share more expert advice and you can check out the past podcast episodes. If your revenue needs a boost, ask me about my consulting and fractional chief growth officer services. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you.